talk a little bit about influencer marketing. It's not something I'm known for, but it's something I do have some thoughts on, and I have done some work in influencer. I have certainly influenced the work that some of the companies that I work on do in influencer. And when I say influenced, I mean like I got them to change the way they do things, or I set it up so that they were set up for success. So I started out in influencer marketing in 2012. I had gotten a project I was working on, which was a fashion project in New York City that had gone for 3 years, dealing with like really great brands like Y3 and Jason Wu. Worked on Karl Lagerfeld events. I was in the events business, and I was working with a lot of publicity people, just working on a fantastic amount of events every year, hundreds of events. And when that project ended, I was looking for something to do that was interesting, and I always kind of liked fashion, although I'm not very fashionable. I always liked working in fashion just because it's kind of exciting. So my wife had a fashion showroom in New York City, and she represented about a dozen brands at the time, women's apparel brands, the contemporary market. And I was new on Instagram, and I've been trying to figure out something to do. Everybody was talking about influencer in 2012. I was like, well, I could do some influencer type marketing. Let me check it out. You know, just a dude who's not very fashionable, and I'm like, well, I'll get into it. So this is what I came up with. I decided I was gonna find some people who were young and upcoming in influencer, who were easy to get in touch with, who might end up being influential in the future. And we would begin a relationship with them, because that's what I like to do. I usually like to start things out on the basis of free. I'm not really going to anybody saying, hey, can I pay you to do something, or can you pay me to do something? Instead, I would just reach out to them and say, interested in, just letting you know who we are and what we do in case you ever have a need from us. So we had some of these brands, and they were selling t-shirts. At the time, one of the brands was called Chaser LA, and we had this other brand in the showroom. I believe it was 2012. We had Pura Vida bracelets, and they were very hot. And we had a couple other brands, some decent sized brands. So I reached out to the brands and said, could you guys send us just some free samples that we can give away, something that doesn't cost very much, to some of these influencers. We're gonna do gift bags. And so when we would do outreach to influencers, and we would just be talking to them, and then we would say, hey, we wanna send you a sample of some of the brands, and if you wanna post, that's okay, but you don't have to. And we sent these boxes out. And two of those influencers later became very, very famous and influential people. So as a result, today, the brands that I work with, we're always able to just DM some of these people and say, hey, we got a new brand coming out in 6 months or a year. Keep it in mind. Wait till you see it. You're gonna like it. And we don't show them the product. We don't give them. We're not like, we're gonna send you early release product. You just tell them like 6 months to a year before that you have something coming, and then maybe a month or two before it's dropped, and you say, hey, by the way, I know we mentioned this last year, but it is coming soon. It's not ready yet, but you're gonna like it. And you just build that up in their minds, because when you've been dealing with somebody for a dozen years or 10 years, and they know that you always bring good stuff to the table, when you pop up again with something else, you wanna kind of like prime that pump. You wanna start over again. You wanna drive some curiosity behind this, and so you're not releasing all kinds of information to them. Maybe you'll give them the Instagram handle so that they see those first branding things coming out. Like you'll see something like the coffee cup sitting on the little wooden table by the lake, or you'll see the rolled up newspaper outside somebody's door in New York City, those photographs. And you'll see the bagels on the table with some flowers there. Those kind of branding things that a lot of brands do. Like I like to do that with Instagram. Like we don't ever release Instagram when we have a product coming out that day. We'll start 6 months to a year out, and we'll be putting little just hints out. We'll follow the accounts. We'll make a list of 100 accounts that are influential in our game to our ideal prospect. And then what we'll do is we'll start to interact with those accounts. We'll maybe make make stories about or reels about, stories about their posts. Then we'll follow the people that follow them, and we'll follow the people that they follow, and we'll just start like what they call engagement farming, which is you just go and like posts and comment on posts if something resonates with you. And when I say comment on posts, I'm not just talking random stuff, dude. I'm saying if something resonates with you and you feel like you have something to say that's valuable, you will say that. Don't just go out there and start dropping silly comments and, nonsense emojis in everybody's comments and, spamming up their feed. Just make stuff that's valuable contribution. So anyway, we got to that point with the brand years ago, 4 years ago or so. And because we had these contacts and connections for years, we were able to DM people who get paid $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for stories. And we could, you know the difference between a post and a story, right? So we were DMing people who get paid $20,000 for a story. And we were able to say to them, hey, we have that product coming out pretty soon. Would you like, us to send you some at some point? And we've already primed the pump 6 months, a year back. So they know it's coming. Now it's coming out, show some pictures or whatever. And they're just like, oh yeah, I love it. And this is where it gets kind of interesting, because you don't want to create any fake scarcity. You know what I mean? You don't want to create like BS scarcity, because it's not believable. People know when you're doing that. But if you've been doing this the right way for years and years, you're going to have some people wanting that product, and you only have a certain amount of product to give out. So now all of a sudden you're coming down to like 3 weeks out, and it's like, I know we told you about it, but it's tight. We got a lot of people looking for this stuff. So we're just going to send you 2 items, and we hope you enjoy it. And as soon as we have the bandwidth and the production to send you some more, if you like it, then that's what we'll do. And so that's key also, is you constantly don't want to create too much supply when there's not enough demand. It's very important. You send a huge box out to some influencer, it's going to end up in her cousin's closet. That's the fact. You know what I mean? It's going to end up in her assistant's mother's closet. It's going to end up in Goodwill with a tag still on it, never worn. You need to create for your brand the aura of this is valuable, this is worthy, and this is scarce. But you can't do that in a fake way. So that's why I'm saying start 6 months and a year out with your influencers before you ever release your product, so that you have this long list of people who want it, and you put them on a spreadsheet, and you rank them for some things. You rank them for follower count. You rank them for how close they are to your ideal prospect. You'll rank them for the kind of content that they create. Maybe you'll put up there who follows them. This is so-and-so's follower. Maybe they're styling other people. So you'll rank all those different things on a spreadsheet, so you come up with like a score. And then when you go to give out product, you don't just give it out willy-nilly. You're going to give it out based upon data that you have collected. And the reason this is important is that you don't want to do it in such a manner that is not having a goal in mind and not covering like a broad spectrum of the ideal customer prospect. That's the other thing, is like, if you're like, take some celebrity who made a movie 30 years ago and she wants your clothes, but and she's super famous, got 5 million followers, more than any other influencer you have in your little group of influencers. But the thing is, she's not influencing your ICP. So why are you going to give her anything then? You tell her to go directly to the orders. You give her the Shopify address and the Shopify URL, and you tell her to make an order. You don't give away free product to somebody just because they got 5 million followers. Say it's the president's wife. Oh, she wants this. Well, is the president's wife influential to your clients? Is she going to wear it and post on it? Then maybe you can give it to her. But just because somebody's very powerful and very big, don't let that influence you. You also want to make sure that you get something out of this too. Now, the problem with a lot of these big influencers I have found, and I don't like to pay for posts, so it's a problem, because they have agents, and the agents are not going to let you get a picture to use on your marketing if she has an agent. And that's just the way it is. So you will have to pay for that. But that I would pay for if it was a good enough post. You might get some sort of special rate because you're tight with the influencer, and she'll speak to the agent. But a lot of times these things kind of set in stone the way they're going to go. There's rates, there's contracts that they have, and you're going to have to abide by those contracts. I personally don't feel that sometimes that's worth doing. I really don't. I have purchased some of that stuff before. I have run it before. I don't think it really is that great. Usually, you're never going to have that much creative control in this post. You can't be like, hey, I need you to be standing on the beach, with one leg up and your arms out doing tree pose. If you're a yoga brand, for instance, you're never going to get that. So if it doesn't fit into your marketing efforts and you can't control it, it's not really worth having from my take. But what is worth having is it is worth having that aura effect of, we have influencers out here in the periphery of all around your ideal customer prospect. Your customer prospects here, and then all around the periphery you have these influencers, and they're posting about your product, and that aura effect is great. But I don't want to pay for that. I'm a direct response guy, so when it comes to branding, I want to make it as cheap as possible. I want to make branding as cheap as possible, and it can be done. It can be done. Don't listen to those branding guys who say that you need to spend a ton of money on branding. I mean, you can. If you're a big brand, go ahead and spend big money on branding. But I'm not a big brand usually. I'm like the little brand guy. So I never really have a huge budget for that branding stuff. For direct response, I have a ton of budget. For branding, not so much. So that's what I would say about that, is that, don't waste your money. Or do waste your money and find out and let me know in the comments how it went. You could just say, you know what, I'm not gonna listen to that dude, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna blow 20 grand on one influencer post to see what happens. Now, there's another way that a lot of people are doing it these days. I'm not a huge fan of UGC either, even though I am a direct response guy. I guess it's probably because some of the brands that I work with don't sit well at UGC. I've never used it too effectively, but that's okay because I don't need to. I'm very successful with what I do, so I don't really need to use UGC. I know a lot of people use it and they swear by it. It's good for them. It's not really my thing, but so the other method that I was talking about, instead of getting these high follower account influencers, is somebody will get a lot of UGC, which is somewhat similar to influencer, but it's not. It's not the same thing. And then they'll start running those as ads. So that is another whole nother thing that I don't really get into, first of all, because I don't do it. And influencer, though, I'm a big fan of it. I definitely use it, love it, and I think it's effective. Let me know if you have any questions about that in the comments.